What's up, guys? In the last video, we took a look at how we could create a to-do list with a very simple JavaScript solution. And in this video, I wanted to improve on that with some very simple features and a quick style fix to make it look and feel a little bit better. So the things we're going to do is, instead of storing the data just in the HTML, we also want to store it in the object, in a global object that we can access at any point when we want to add or remove an item. We also want to store that data object in the local storage. So whenever we close the app and reopen it again, maybe in a few hours or days, we still have the items saved so that we can reuse the app on our phone or on our tablet at any point, which is pretty cool. The third thing I want to do is add some styling so that whenever the lists are empty, they say a simple message to make it a little bit more easier for the user to, understand the content. And finally, we also want to add a simple event listener for the input field that when the user click enter, it's basically like clicking the add button. It adds a to-do item to the to-do list. All right, cool. So first thing, let's just jump over to the repo, the repository over our GitHub. This link is going to be in the video description. And let's just clone it. So open up Hyper or whatever terminal you prefer. Let's jump into the desktop and clone the repo. Then just jump into the folder and open it up in your text editor. Cool. All right. So let's see if weird. It had a bunch of history in there. Okay. Let's see here. Scroll down a little bit. Right. Yeah. Cool. So if we open up the HTML file in our browser to see how it looks like, let's open it up in Chrome. Yeah, right. So if we add an item, it's going to be added to the to-do list. If we complete it, it's going to be added to the complete list. Now you can see that there's no empty message or anything. There's just this weird border right here, which looks pretty weird in my opinion. If we click the remove, it's going to be, it's going to vanish. So what's up with that? Let's just fix that right away by removing this not empty pseudo selection right here and right here so that the border is always there. Next, we want to add this little empty message on both the to-do list and the completed list. So we can do this by targeting the completed, and since we have the before pseudo selector already in use for this border, we can use the after pseudo selector. Okay, so the content for this is going to be, let's say you have yet to complete any tasks. Cool. We also want to do one for the to-do list. So that has the ID of to-do. So then we have content, you have nothing to do. To D, haha. All right, and then we can target both of them to do the styling so that we don't have to duplicate so much of the styling that we do, like this. All right. So let's say with 100%, and since it's a pseudo selection like the after and before, they are not block elements, we need to make them block elements. And we also want to add text align center so that since we have a block element, it's going to take up the full width. We also want to do maybe like font size 12 pixels. Font, nah. Let's just add a color. I think that should be enough. Nice. Cool. And the after on the to-do, we also want to do a margin of 15 pixels. Nice. Awesome. All right. So that's one of the things we wanted to do. So if we add an item, sorry about that. I forgot. What is it? Empty. So if it's empty, we're going to do that. If this is empty, we're going to do that, right? Cool. And then we also want to do the style, of course. Yeah. Well, actually, we don't have to, because without content, this style is not going to be applicable. So we could do this, but it's not going to really do anything, because since we don't have any content for either of the lists, or in this case, this list, this style is not going to be applied. So we can just leave it at that. All right, cool. So adding an item, removes the message, and moving it over removes that message and brings back the to-do message. And removing that and brings back the final message. Cool. So the next thing we want to do is store the data in a object in our JavaScript file. So let's do that right away. Var data is equal to an object. And in this object, we will have two different arrays. And these arrays obviously is going to be to-do and completed. So we're going to have to-do is an array, and completed is also an array. Nice. Now, the key is that when we add my items, we remove items, and we complete items, that's when we want to manipulate our object right here. And the add item to do and stuff like that, manipulating the HTML, is something we can look at after when we have added the items to this object. So the first action the user is going to do is add an item, obviously. So that's add item to do with the value. And it's going to empty it right here. Add item to do right there, right. That's just going to add it to the HTML. So we can do it right here. We can target the data.todo array and just push the value in there very simply. So data.todo push, which is a function in the array object. And we just want to push the value right like that. Nice. And when we remove an item, that's a bit different because the parent could be the completed and the to do. In any case, we want to move this down, just do like that, and let's console log the data object. So whenever we add an item, we can see. Okay, cool. So we have the completed and the to-do array, and the to-do array contains the ASD value. 1, 2, 3 gets added to the to-do array. Cool. So next thing is completing an item, since that's just moving it from a to-do or the to-do array to the completed array. Then we can do the remove. Okay, so let's remove the console log. And then we have a completed item. We have the actual item. We have let's do console log item just to see what that is. I think that's the value. No, that is the actual list item. Oh, I see. Okay. It's still gonna have the buttons inside of it. That's problematic. This is interesting. Right. Because we can't target, or yeah, let's look at this. So if we grab the inner text right off the bat, you can see, oh, I actually thought it's going to grab the HTML, but obviously it's not. Well, that solved our problem, even though I didn't really explain it to you. In a case, we want to grab the inner text and we want to move it over from the to-do to the completed list. And we can't really move it. What we need to do is delete it from the to-do list and add it to the completed list. So we're going to do data to-do dot splice, and then we need to grab the index of the value in that array. Data to-do index of inner texts. We can also do value is equal to that, so we don't have to. Yeah, so we don't have to repeat that every single time. Data to do index of value, and then we want to splice 1. So we want to remove 1 based on that index. Then we're going to do data completed push value. Then just console log data. Okay. So that's just going to move over the item there. So if we add, for example, 2 items and we move over 1, 2, 3, you can see that in completed 1, 2, 3 is going to be, and in to do ASD is going to be located. Nice. So now we have just the arrays moving the items back and forth. Interesting point. Interesting point. This complete item is actually a toggle. So whenever you click this button in any case, in any list, it's gonna do this. It's gonna run this function, which says that every single time we want to move or remove this item from to do to completed, but when we click it right here, we want to move it back. We want to do the reverse thing. So how do we know that it is an actual complete action and not a incomplete action, so to say? Well, as you can see down here, check if the item should be added to completed list or re-added to the to-do list. So if the ID is to do. So the only thing we need to do is just place this within an if statement. And in the if statement, we say that if ID is equal to do, I think, because if it is to do, then yes, that is the target, and the target insert before, yeah. And then in the else statement, we want to do the opposite. So that is the completed array should splice and the to-do should push. Nice. So now we can just console log data again to see the results. ESD 1, 2, 3. Move it back and forth. To-do should have both. Completed should have 1, 2, 3. Yep. And now completed should have both. Yep. And now to-do should have both. Yep. Nice. Cool. So now we just move the items back and forth. Finally, we also want to remove an item, and that is based also on which parent it has. So if we log the parent right here, we can see that the parent is the ID of to-do. And if we do the same thing, you can see the ID is completed. So what we need to grab is the var ID is item, parent.id, just like we did right here. And then we can just repeat the whole process, really. We'll not really repeat it. We want to just do the splice segment of it. So we want to grab the value again, because we don't know the value, we just know the actual item. So we do some copying of the code. Then we can actually just copy this whole if statement like that, and do if it is to do, we want to splice it. If it's completed, we want to splice it without adding it to the other. Oh, right. We need to log it out to see if something happens. Yep, it did. Remove that and remove that. That should only have 1, 2, 3. Yep. Then this should only have ASD. Yep. Okay, but does it work if we complete? Let's complete these two items and remove ASD. ASD. Yes, cool, nice. So now remove and add and all those things work. Nice. So that finished up the first thing we wanted to do, and the second thing is actually storing this in the in local storage, and that should be done whenever we add an item, whenever we complete an item, and whenever we remove an item. So we can easily create a function for that, and let's create that on the top here underneath the event listener. So function data object updated, like that. And then we just need to run this function whenever we manipulate the data object, like that. Complete item, remove item, and add item right there. So whenever that happens, we can just console log. So now we add one. So this logs in the console. We move it, it's going to be logged. We move it back, it's going to be logged, and we remove it, it's going to be logged. Which means that this function is run whenever it's supposed to be run. So to target local storage, we can check out local storage MDN. Oh, wrong one. This one, local storage, right there. So local storage set item. So you target this object and then you set the item. And this is the key, and that's the value. And then you can also get the item, and I'm pretty sure you can remove item. Yeah, there's a remove item function. So that's going to be used if we want to restore it at any point, but that's not included. In any case, so the data object updated, that's going to be, that's going to make sure that the local storage gets updated. So we're going to do set item of to-do list, let's call it that, and we want to store the data object. Now, what's peculiar is that the local storage can only store clear text. It cannot store objects and stuff like that, which means we need to somehow convert the data object into something we can store as clean text. Some of you is going to scream this answer at me, and some of you is going to be really, really confused about what I'm talking about. But what you can do is convert the object into text using JSON, like we talked about before, I believe, at least. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So you can do JSON.stringify the data. And before we do that, let's just console log how that looks. There you go. So that's just a clear text of a JSON string. And that's going to be stored in local storage, and then we can fetch it whenever we start up the app. Okay, cool. So now that we do this, now 3 items have been added to local storage, but we don't do anything. We don't fetch it. We just add the items. So what we need to do whenever the app is started, right here, we can just console log local storage, and we use get item to do list. Since that's gonna just take the name, we just want to get the value. We don't want to set it, and we don't want to have a semicolon there. There you go. So we have the 3 items in our to-do, as you can see here. Let's see if I can zoom in for you. I could not. Yeah, now you can see much better. There you go. There you go. Nice. So then we need to parse it as well, since it's a JSON string. So if we parse it, it becomes a JavaScript object just like before, and we have our items. Super cool. So we can refresh this. We can even close Chrome, reopen Chrome, open up the HTML, and looky there, we have our object. Super neat, huh? First time I saw this, I literally dropped my jaw to the floor. Okay, maybe not literally. In any case, so we want to move this parse in over to our data object right here, since we don't want it to be empty if we have something in our local storage. So then we can use an if statement and check if there is something in local storage. And luckily enough, local storage, the get item function returns false if there's nothing there, or null. Sorry, null is the correct term. So we can do local storage get item to do list. If this is true, we want to do json.parse local storage get item to do list. Otherwise, we want it to be an empty object, just like before. Check this out. Okay, so we got our to-do list right here and our completed. And we can just move that into our HTML very simply. Okay, so all we need to do is run a function that just add these items to our DOM directly. Since we're already manipulating down here, we don't need to run this function whenever we add an item. We just need to run this function once, and that is when we start up the app. All right, so let's just create that function real quickly. So function, let's call it render to-do list. And this should be run right here, right at the beginning. Yeah, right, because we include the script right here. The DOM is going to be loaded. Okay, cool. So if, let's see here, let's just console log data, because we don't want to run it if both to do and completed are empty. So let's do if data.todo.length, I think, That's going to be 0, and completed.length return. So if they're empty, we're just going to return, which basically just closes out the function and returns nothing. And since the value is going to be 0, which is null, not null, false, this if statement is going to be false, or in this case, true. Yeah. Okay, so if it's not, if neither of them are empty, or if either of them are, do you have some items, we want to loop through them and add it to the HTML. So we want to create 2 for loops. That's going to be for var I is equal to 0, I is less than data.todo.length, I plus, and then, or increments, let's do j is equal to 0, j is less than data.completed.length, j plus. Here we go. And then we can do more value is equal to data to do I, and same thing goes here. Value is equal to data.completed I. Okay, so those are the values we want to store into our HTML. And we can do, let's see here, we have this function, which is a lot of HTML, or at least JavaScript based, creating elements or HTML elements and adding it to the DOM. There should be a simple way for us to reuse this function so that we can use it to push in items from our object directly. So let's see here. We have the list, we have the items, or the actual item, the button, the remove, complete, the click to complete the item. I think the only thing we need to do is change the list variable so that it's not just to do, it could be the completed as well. Let's see, we have the text. Yeah, I think that's the only thing we need to do. So let's just add a completed target right there. So if completed, we want to do completed. Otherwise, we're going to do the to do. That's pretty much it. And then we have the text. And since completed is going to be null, it's going to default back to do like it was before. So I think that's going to work. So yeah, nice. Add item to do. Where was I? Jesus, I completely lost myself. There, right there. Value, and then value and true. What's that? It's gonna say undefined on both buttons. That's weird. Remove SVG. Nah. Is it really? Maybe it is. But no, they're global. That shouldn't be a problem. Why is it undefined? There's a button. Well, that's actually the contents. Yeah, it complains about the contents. So completed inner HTML is complete SVG. Okay. Oh crap! Sorry. Console log. Wow, that's weird. Huh. I know why. It's because we run the to-do list before the variables have even been declared. Smarty pants. There we go. Nice. Cool. Let's just remove the console log. There we go. Super duper. We can even remove items if we want to. Awesome. Re-render it, complete it. Awesome. Yes, I love when things work. if you're a beginner to programming, you're going to be surprised how many times you're going to say that. All right, so that completes the third thing, and now we just got to do the final fourth thing, which is just add a event lister for clicking enter on our input field. It's super simple. Okay, so up here where we have the add button, add event listener, we can just do the same thing. We add an event listener, but this time for our item ID. So document get element by ID item, add event listener. Let's do key down function E for event, and then we can just console log E. Okay, so whenever we click a key down now, we should get some kind of log. Yep, nice. So then we can even see which key we get and which code it is. Right, you can see here we have the char code, we have the code, and then we have the actual which is the 13. Okay, so if we do code, e.code, you can see it says enter right there. So let's say if it's enter, is that true? Nope, nope, nope. That's enter. Cool. So if it is enter, if eCode is equal to enter, and let's grab the value of this, and value, cool. Awesome. So nothing happens now that it's empty and I click enter. If I add something, click enter, it's going to console log what value it is or what value it contains. And we did this for a simple if statement. And we want to do the exact same thing here, but we don't want to have to repeat this every single time. So why not do a function called add item? And then just grab this, and we have the value like that. And we have this function called value add item to do, which is kind of weird in the name, so I want to change that real quick. Add item to HTML instead, or DOM. Let's say DOM. Add item to DOM. And let's replace, so add item to do. Replace all. I think that's it. Yep. Nice. Okay. Awesome. Works. So, to sum things up, we have improved this by adding 4 different features, or you can call them features, which is that we wanted to store all values in a data object that is globally accessible, which we've done up here. We also wanted to save that in our local storage so that we could close and reopen the app and still have our items saved, which we have, and it's working. Third thing is we wanted to add some simple styling for when the items or the lists were empty, didn't contain any items, which we have. And the fourth thing is that we wanted to add an event listener for entry keystroke on our input field, which we have. And everything is working, everything's looking good. So, good job. Nice. So, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Really looking forward to the next video. And if you want to hit me up on any social media, feel free to do so. Links are in the description. And until next time, take care.